China accuses United States National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien of fueling tensions in the region. This comes after O'Brien capped his recent trips to Vietnam and the Philippines. Chinese officials slam O'Brien for making unreasonable remarks on the South China Sea, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. In a statement released Monday, November 23, the Chinese embassy in Manila says, "We firmly oppose these remarks which are full of Cold War mentality and wantonly incite confrontation. It shows that his visit to this region is not to promote regional peace and stability, but to create chaos in the region in order to seek the selfish interests of the US." During his visit, O'Brien reaffirms the US pledge to defend the Philippines in case of an armed attack in the West Philippine Sea, saying resources in the maritime area belong to Filipinos. China insists the US had no right to interfere in the South China Sea as it refused to join the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea or UNCLOS. It likewise hit America's freedom of navigation operations as the biggest driver of militarization in the waterway. Leftist leaders and activists challenge security officials to support their claims of red tagging with credible proof that can stand in court, rather than just relying on mere witness statements. They make the call at the Senate hearing on Tuesday, November 24, to refute the claims that government, military officials, and their witnesses made before the Senate Committee on Defense 3 weeks ago.
I am not engaged in the armed struggle. I do not support or espouse the violent overthrow of the state. And I do not recruit for the New People's Army or any armed group. Hindi po ako rebelde, Mr. Chair. Hindi po ako terorista. At hindi po ako front ng mga rebelde o terorista. Ako po ay isang aktivista.
Former Bayan Muna Congressman Nery Colmenares and National Union of People's Lawyers founding member and Center Executive Director Jobert Pahilga also highlight discrepancies in the statements of Jeffrey Celis. Celis is a self-confessed former New People's Army rebel who was the government's star witness at the last hearing. Colmenares points out, Celis and the military failed to present any competent evidence that would stand in court. Bayan Muna Representative Carlos Zarate calls on the government to stop the red tagging against activists.
Mr. Chair, sa halip na unawain at igalang ang mga naging papel namin bilang mga kinatawan ng ating mga mamayan sa loob ng Kongreso, ay naging subject kami ng mga trump-up charges at matinding red tagging at terrorist tagging. Dapat matigil na po ito.
Kabataan Representative Sara Ilago meantime turns emotional in her opening statement when she reiterates that someone should be held accountable.
Paulit-ulit na pinapaalala natin sa AFP, sa PNP, sa NTF-ELCA na ginagarantiyahan ng saligang batas ang karapatan ng bawat tao na magpahayag. Mr. Chair, Senate President, sa lahat ng narito, kailangan may managot.
In April 2019, the Makabayan bloc filed against military officials over red tagging. In July, Ilago and other youth group leaders filed a complaint with the National Bureau of Investigation against netizens who posted comments red tagging them. Some of the posts were shared on the social media accounts of the police and the military. The Philippines aims to come up with 73.2 billion pesos to pay for the COVID-19 vaccinations of 60 million Filipinos. In a meeting with President Rodrigo Duterte on Monday, November 23, Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III says the fund will come from different sources. He says 40 billion pesos will come from multilateral agencies like the Asian Development Bank and World Bank. 20 billion pesos will come from domestic sources such as Land Bank, Development Bank of the Philippines, and government corporations, while the remaining 13.2 billion pesos will come from bilateral sources from countries where a vaccine is being developed. Dominguez estimates it would cost around 1,200 pesos to vaccinate one Filipino, and with the 73.2 billion peso fund, it can vaccinate at least 60 million Filipinos. Health Secretary Francisco Duque says this number is enough to achieve herd immunity in the country. United States President Donald Trump finally agrees for President-elect Joe Biden's transition team to proceed, but is not yet conceding. In a tweet posted Monday, November 23, Trump acknowledges it's time for the General Services Administration to do what needs to be done. But in the same tweet, he refuses to concede, saying, "Our case strongly continues. We will keep up the good fight, and I believe we will prevail." Biden's team will now have access to funds, office space, and the ability to meet with federal officials. The sudden break in Trump's resistance comes after Michigan certifies its results in Biden's favor. Biden also announces the first members of his national security and foreign policy team. For Secretary of State, former Deputy State Secretary Antony Blinken. Biden also appoints Cuba-born Alejandro Mayorkas to lead the Department of Homeland Security, a sharp reversal from Trump's anti-immigrant policies. Biden also names Avril Haines the first female head of intelligence and Janet Yellen as the first woman as Treasury Secretary. Jake Sullivan, who also advised Biden when he was vice president under Obama, is named National Security Advisor. And in a further message of U.S. re-engagement with the international community, Biden names career diplomat Linda Thomas Greenfield for UN ambassador. And a heavyweight appointment on climate issues, Obama-era top diplomat John Kerry. A former broadcaster's claim that the Philippines was at the top of a list of the most peaceful countries is false. On November 7, Jay Sonza posted on Facebook, "The narrative of those against President Rodrigo Duterte is ruined. Philippines on top, list of most peaceful country in the world." But the Institute for Economics and Peace's Global Peace Index, or GPI, for 2020 did not list the Philippines as the most peaceful country in the world. Instead, the Philippines got a rank of 129 out of 163 independent states and territories studied by the GPI each year. According to the index, a rank of 129 falls under a low state of peace. Sonza may have been referring to the Global Law and Order report for 2020 released on October 27, where the Philippines received an index score of 84 out of a possible 100. Though the Philippines ranked in the upper half in the 37th to 41st places, it is not top of the list. Rappler debunked other posts by Sonza in the past. In July 2019, a false claim from his account said drug overdose is the leading cause of death in Iceland. He also posted an altered photo of an ABS-CBN van supposedly tipping over while covering the situation of the Dolomite in Manila Bay during Typhoon Ulysses or VAMCO.